Today we're going to be going over a wide receiver football IQ quiz to test your knowledge of the position. So how this video is going to go, you guys, if you're not familiar with our quiz style videos, is I'm going to show something on the whiteboard like a play, a route combination, a route versus a specific coverage look, and then I'm going to ask you guys a series of questions about that, give you a chance to pause the video, think about your answer, and then we'll break down why your answer is right or wrong. So the first thing we're going to be going over is a play concept, and we're going to be pretending that we are this X wide receiver over here. So the play concept we're going over is something called an Ohio concept. So an Ohio concept is where we have a fade route from the outside wide receiver, and then we have a 5-yard speed out from the slot receiver. And so we have this mirrored on both sides. So that's at 5, that out route is going to be at 5, and then we have a fade route from our 2 outside guys. But we are going to be pretending we are this X receiver right here. So the question, or I guess you could say like the coverage based around this question is going to be a cover 2 defense. So if we have a cover 2 defense here, so cover 2, obviously that is going to be a 2 high safety defense. So we're going to have a free safety over here. He's going to be lined up wide. We'll have our strong safety lined up over here. He's going to be lined up wide, probably outside of the hash marks. Then we're going to have our corners over here. They're going to be lined up outside leverage of our outside wide receiver, and they're going to be in charge of the flats. We're going to have our Will backer, our Mike backer, our Sam, and then we're going to have 4 down defensive linemen right here. Okay, you guys? So in cover 2, obviously the responsibility of the strong safety is the deep half. This free safety has the deep half. Corners are going to be sitting in the flats. Corners are going to be sitting in the flats. He'll be playing hook to curl, middle hook to curl, and then hook to curl over here. So guys, the question on our wide receiver IQ quiz, how would you guys run this fade route over here versus a cover 2 defense on an Ohio concept? There are 2 specific things that I'm looking for in your answer. How would you run this fade route versus a cover 2 defense? So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answer. Now fellas, before we give you that correct answer, if you are an athlete and you would like to gain weight this offseason, you need to put on size, you need to put on muscle mass, check out that very first link in the description below for one of the best tasting protein powders on the market to help you guys put on size. I started a supplement company a few years ago with my brother called AG Labs, and we designed a line of supplements specifically for athletes to help with weight gain. So this is our cookies and cream flavored protein. We also have chocolate peanut butter brownie, cinnamon snickerdoodle, and salted caramel frappuccino. It's some of the best tasting protein on the market to help you guys bulk up and put on size. So if you use the promo code FIRST25, FIRST25 at checkout at that very first link in the description below, you get 25% off your protein order. Now, like I said, there are 2 things that I was looking for with this X receiver on his fade. The first one is going to be an MOR. So an MOR means mandatory outside release. So if you guys were thinking, I'm gonna run a mandatory outside release fade, you would be correct. And the reason why is because we have this 5-yard out coming back underneath us. As a receiver, guys, it's not just about knowing a release, knowing a move at the top of the route. You also have to understand why your route can set up other routes for other players on the field, right? So a mandatory outside release, you have to get outside of this corner. Reason why you have to get outside of that corner is because our goal is to either turn his back or keep him facing the slot receiver. So if he turns his back and runs with us, the quarterback has an easy read and he throws that 5-yard out because nobody's there. He can't guard the 5-yard out with his back turned. But if he tries to stay square and you get around him and he comes off of this and sits in the flats, guess what? You are now open. Now this is the second part of the answer that I was looking for. If you said you would run this fade route but start to settle down, which essentially means slow down in this whole shot zone, the area between the corner and between the free safety and cover 2, that would also be correct. We can't run this like a normal fade. If it was single high free safety, man coverage underneath, and you just took off and ran, yeah, you could put your head down and go. But because there's that safety coming over the top, if the QB's throwing us the ball, he's putting us right in this whole shot. So we have to throttle down and run a quarterback friendly route. So if that's what you guys guessed, that would be 100% correct. Now let's get to the next part of our wide receiver quiz. Now, next question, you guys, is going to be a route situation, or I guess you could say a route versus versus a specific coverage look. So we're gonna be talking about how would you run, or I guess the question is, how would you run a 10-yard in or a 10-yard dig versus a DB who is inside shade 2 to 3 yards away. We call that catch technique. So remember, when he's inside shade, his goal is to take away the inside route. That's why this is tricky. So how would you guys run a 10-yard in versus a DB who is 2 to 3 yards away inside shade? So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answer. Now, if you guys said that you would attack this DB's leverage inside, take the outside release up to 10 and then break, that would be 100% correct. Now, there are a few things that you have to understand. Now, the reason why we would do this, guys, is remember I said when you have a DB who's inside shade 2 to 3 yards away, he is trying to take away the inside. He's trying to take away the dig, the slant, the post. So if my game plan was I'm going to give him a fake outside, then try to release to the inside, that DB is not going to give up his leverage. His whole goal is don't get beat to the inside. So he'll get hands on us, he'll reroute us, and even if we get to the inside of him, if my dig looks like this, where I'm stemming way across the field and then I break, that's not good, you guys. So many receivers in like one-on-ones, camp atmospheres will do that, and they'll catch this dig almost on the opposite hash. That's not a realistic route. That's not going to impress a coach, and that's not how you would run it in a game. In a game, you have this dig, you'll have another receiver on the inside, maybe running a dig, running a hook, other receivers on the other side of the field. So if you're running a route right on top of them, one defender can guard 2 routes. So take what he gives me to the outside. Now, when I go to the outside, there's 1 of 2 things I could do. I could either stack him, which means we get back over the top of this DB and he is trailing right behind me, and I give him some type of fake to the outside and cut on my dig, or he's going to be running right next to me, right on my hip. So that's when I would take my inside hand, right when I get to 10, swat him by, drop my hips, and cut under him. But that's the 2 breaks that I can use, and that is how I would structure this route. Now, the next route situation we're going to be going over, you guys, is how would you run a 10-yard corner versus a DB who is outside leverage, playing off-man coverage, but he is 7 to 8 yards away. So how would you guys run a 10-yard corner versus a DB who is 7 to 8 yards away outside shade? So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answer. Now, this is a tough route situation here, you guys, because you have a DB who's off man, he's 7 to 8 yards away, but he's outside leverage, and we have to run a corner route at 10 yards, which is around where he is sitting, and it's going to the outside. So remember, the DB, wherever his leverage is, wherever his shade is, that's where he doesn't want us to go. So he doesn't want us to just run to the outside of him and break to the corner. The second he feels me starting to attack his leverage to the outside or try to break his leverage to the outside, he's going to do something called weaving. So that means he is going to keep his leverage to the outside, keep his leverage to the outside, and then try to force us to the sideline. And if I'm running an outside breaking route, not giving the quarterback any room to lead me, to throw me open, that's not good, you guys. So what we have to do here is you have to attack his inside shoulder and his inside hip. You need to push vertical. You need to self-fade. You need to try to get that DB to flip his hips open, and then when you put the brakes on at 10, you have to cut underneath him. You could even use that outside arm and swat and throw him by and cut under, but that's how you would run it. You are not going to be able to attack his leverage and square him up. The second you angle your stem outside, that DB is going to widen. So attack that inside shoulder, attack that inside hip, throw him by, and then work back up to your corner route.